Tito Ortiz fight. Tito is a showman and a businessman, and he's very good at promoting fights.
I'm here to show what I can do. Let's take out each and every one of these guys they put in front of me.
A lot of people like Tito. A lot of people hate him. He's got the attitude, he's cocky, and he's got the look. He's got everything. He really does have everything to be a superstar.
Tito was responsible in the early days of Zuffa taking over. He was responsible for lifting this company to the next level because he was the big star.
Back then, when we first bought the UFC, it was a lot smaller. You only did so many shows a year, and the roster was only so big. Guys like Tito Ortiz, Matt Hughes, even Ken Shamrock, those guys were some of the biggest guys in the sport at that time.
Joe Silva came up to me at the Abu Dhabi World Championship, and they needed to put a fight together. And he said, what would you think about fighting Vanderlei Silva? I wasn't sure about it. I mean, it was only my 5th fight at the time, and he's like, I think you could beat him, and this would really make you the world champion.
He was kind of intimidated by Silva. This is the guy who fighted in the Valley 2-0 matches and kicking guys' heads off.
I knew Vanderlei Silva. I knew he was a very vicious, lethal fighter.
One man will walk out of here tonight is our new middleweight champion. Tito grabs a big right, and down goes Silva.
Tito dropped Vanderlei. He hit Vanderlei with a big punch and dropped him.
I dropped Vanderlei, and I thought I had him out. I hit him with a shot, and he just fell to my feet. He kind of woke up at my feet, and I heard him run. He was like, and I was like trying to finish him, and he survived out of it.
Oh, good action here. Oh, it did look like Silva hit Ortiz.
Vanderlei rocked Tito as well, and had Tito running away from him.
He tried to kick at him, caught my foot, and threw a right hand, missed me, threw a left hook, and hit me and dropped me. When he hit me, it felt like the earth went upside down. I dropped to a knee, and I turned around, and the first thing I thought was get away from this guy. He threw a right hand, I circled, hit a shot, and took him down, and from that point on, it was kind of survival.
It was one of the fights early in Tito's career where he had to overcome adversity.
For me, as being a young kid from the streets who had, drug addict parents, who lived in motels, and I didn't have anything to fall back on, and all of a sudden I was a world champion. All the hard work and dedication paid off, and I think a star was born when I became the champ. I think I slept with my belt for the first month and a half.
I think that was a real good fight for his career, a real good fight to show people what he's capable of, what kind of character he has.
I think after that fight was when people started to see Tito as a guy who wasn't just a good fighter, but a guy who could be a star. Tito was the first bona fide star that the UFC had.
I'm here to support Tito here and all the family here, the Carnival crew.
He went from one level into rock star level status. He became bigger almost than any fighter they ever had.
The hardest thing to do is to get Tito where he's supposed to be because he's always so preoccupied with the fans. As far as being fan-friendly, Tito signs every autograph, he greets every fan.
Your nephews knew who this guy was, and they loved him because he talked a lot of crap, and he had the great entrance with the fireworks going off and the whole thing. He was a star.
Pyrotechnics were a big part of all the walk-ins. to this day, one of the favorite shots that we still use is Tito walking under the pyrotechnic waterfall. So it was something that just increased the level of the walk-in, and it basically added to the whole spectacle in-house.
Fighting at the light heavyweight division and being the world champion was my dream. I loved it. I worked really, really hard at it. Each fight was more and more pressure, I think. It just got bigger and bigger and bigger.
When he gets a hold of guys, you know, as evident in the Evan Tanner fight, and if he gets a hold of a guy and he can get him up in the air, man, he's going to take you down hard. He knocked Evan unconscious with that slam. It was a brutal, quick knockout ending, and, you know, just shows you what Tito's capable of.
When he slammed him down, you not only did you hear it, but the place then went silent.
Well, that was our first fight. That was the first fight we ever did. You know, we're talking about getting sanctioning and all this stuff. I thought he killed Evan Tanner that day. I was terrified. I remember we went up into the octagon. I'm like, oh my God, it's over already. We just fought it and it's over.
The fight lasted 30 seconds. I think that was probably the most scared I've ever been in a fight because I didn't want to lose. I just remember just feeling the energy of that. There was no energy like that in the world. I've never felt things like it ever since. I think that's why people love watching me fight, because I fight with so much emotion.
My game plan was come in here, stop him, submit him, knock him out. I was going to give him 100%. I wasn't letting him get close to me. Tito Ortiz is for real.
Tito is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, light heavyweights ever. He's a very, very strong guy, an enormous guy for the division.
If he got you on the ground, he was on top, you were done. Elbows, punches, you name it. He just controlled the action, dominated.
Guys could stop my double leg. They could stop my ground and pound.
He gets that takedown and gets established on top. He's going to be hard to get out from underneath, hard to move, and he's great at tying you up and landing damaging shots, landing elbows.
I think he's influenced a lot of guys in that way.
Best pound-for-pound fighter in the world you're looking at, baby.
Tito's always been a very, very well-conditioned athlete.
No one's ever been able to out-condition him.
Big Bear is a huge part of my training camp, a huge part of my mental strategy. I go up to camp and that's all I do is eat, sleep, and train. There's no sidetracking, you know, there's no nightclubs, there's no bars, there's, you know, no time to party. That's all there is. So like having the mental attitude of just going and doing the work for, you know, 7, 8 weeks, sometimes 9 weeks, of just making sure that I put in the time. So when it's fight time, that's all I've been doing is just training. Another opportunity that we have up there too is altitude. You know, if you're at 7,000 feet of altitude, it makes it hard. It makes it work by about 5 times harder than it would be at elevation of training. Put your body through deprivation of oxygen, so you build more red blood cells. So when you come down to sea level, cardio is a lot better. And I've always felt a huge difference. That's why I've always been up to Big Bear.
Tito's been around a long time. He knows how to cut weight. He knows when to cut weight. He comes in at a specific weight the day of the fight. A lot of guys go to the sauna and sweat it out. Tito runs around the building like 2 and 3 hours in the middle of the night during the course of the day. He runs it off. I've never known him not to make the exact weight. He's always right on the money.
Hate's a strong word. I don't hate anybody, but I dislike it very much. It's just the things that he does after he done with a fight. He just like disrespects people. So yeah, I took it personal.
I think the feud that he had with Ken was good for the UFC, and I think the feud that we had wasn't bad for the UFC either.
Well, the hatred between me and Ken started with the Lions Den. They were the Cobra Guy guys that would just be complete jackoffs to everybody, and I hated that. I beat Guy Metzger, and I had a t-shirt on that said, "Gay Metzger is my." I looked over, Ken Shamrock was screaming at me, saying, "Tito, take off that shirt. Tito, take off the shirt." And I was like, man, you gotta understand, he said all kinds of about me. I'm saying it's my time to talk now. And he kept pointing his finger. I go, he's the one that started it.
It was so crazy that a lot of people thought it wasn't real. People thought it was fake. You know, like we were doing some stunt to
Ortiz's opponent.
All of a sudden, we're in UFC 40. I get a chance to fight Ken Shamrock. You know, he just got out of WWF. He's a huge name at the time, and it made sense for UFC.
Tito Ortiz is going to find out what Ken Shamrock is all about.
All I remember is Tito started laughing. Ken kicked that chair, and it was just surreal, man. It just looked like it was floating out in front of me, and I reached down and grabbed it.
It was kind of like a changing of the guard. When Shamrock came back, now he was passing the torch on to Tito.
So, after the show was over, I was in the elevator at the hotel, and basically there were people in there talking about the Tito entrance and that it was over the top. And it really was. It was something bigger than anything we had ever done before.
I think the walkout was the most entertaining walkout ever. I remember going inside the little elevator thing and getting under there, and when the elevator rose and I came up from the smoke and the lights, it was showtime. And I remember walking out and just going, I'm going to kill this guy right now. I was just thinking, all the training I put into it, and it's time to show it off now.
Here we go.
Oh, big right hand by Tito. Big knee with the knee. Tito locked into it.
I remember body locking him, slamming him.
And the middle back by Tito Ortiz.
And I think I hit him with everything but the kitchen sink, and his face showed it. It looked like someone painted him with a purple paintbrush.
Dominant round for Tito Ortiz.
He delivered on fight night. He dominated the fight and just tore through Shamrock.
Tito Ortiz remains the light heavyweight champion.
After it was over, I defended my title for another time. Total domination. I thought it was over. I thought, you know, that was just the beginning of the end. But it was the beginning of a trilogy.
When they coached The Ultimate Fighter, I knew that it would be, you know, storylines are always the guys who are competing on the show. I knew there'd be some big storylines with them.
I'm very competitive in everything I do. When I lost playing pool on The Ultimate Fighter against Ken Shamrock, I was so pissed at myself. I mean, pool's my game. I play pool. I think I got stood up. I think Ken was practicing before I think Dana told him about it.